Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing well. Now today is all about improving your golf around the greens for links golf. So how do you make some subtle changes to make sure you can still make some good contacts, because it's challenging on these links golf courses. Generally it's tight and it's firm and there's not as much grass around as some of the golf courses you play on, and it's important to know how to adapt from a technical perspective and also the IQ perspective. So I'm going to run through how you play the low shot, a higher shot, the bunker shot, because the sand is pretty different, and also in terms of really making sure you use the right club at the right time. So we'll start with a chip and run shot, so the basic shot, which really is the type of shot you should be using for the majority of the time on links golf, because the ground is lovely and firm. I'm at Royal Portrush Golf Club here just before the Open Championship, and the ground is lovely and firm. Now the beauty of that is you don't want to get too fearful about the club digging into the ground, because it's going to bounce nicely. But the downside of it being firm is it can kick a little bit more, particularly if you're releasing the club a little bit more, and you can get some slightly iffy contacts. So my standard release one chip and run that I teach, I have the ball position just inside the right heel with a slight forward shaft lean. I'm really trying to encourage golfers to go fairly wide and then open up. So it's a fairly non-wristy type of stroke. So that works well on most surfaces, but when it's as firm as it is here, you can get the club just kicking somewhat just before the ball, and the contact won't be bad, but it might not be as crisp as you would like it. So we're going up to that back pin there. There's about 25 yards of green. I'll show you how you can make some little changes, still get contact. This is a 52 degree. The reason I think sometimes using a lofted club to chip with on links golf is the greens are so quick here, particularly on most links golf courses, but here at Portrush, it is very, very fast. So the benefit of using a lofted club and turning it down means you get a little bit more spin and check, and it just helps hold the green a little bit more. So this is what I would do slightly differently, playing off these conditions. Rather than having the ball just inside the right heel, I would play it onto the right toe and just put a little bit more shaft lean in. And from that position there, I'll add in a little bit more wrist set than I normally would. Why? Because that's going to get me a little bit steeper. It's going to keep the leading edge down into the back of the ball rather than letting that club potentially kick. The follow through as a result will be a little bit shorter and a little bit more pinched. So it's shorter in there. So ball a bit further back, hands a touch more forward, a little bit of setting, and we go down, and you can see how it just gives you that little bit of check as it runs out there towards the pin. It just really takes a bit of insurance out really on the strike. So a little set, down we go, and we get a nice little checking shot that's not chasing out too much. So that's a really nice little technique. Obviously, if I was playing to a shorter pin, okay, let's say I'm going for this one out here on the left now. I'm just going to do the same thing, but I've gone now to a 56, and that will then give me a ball that will run a bit less, but a little hinge, a little bit down, and that's how I adapt for links golf on the firm grounds. Now, don't forget, you still want to be using lower lofty clubs. So let's say you're a bit nervous about using a lofty club. That's absolutely not a problem. But now I've gone to an 8-iron. Now, an 8-iron, I would do pretty much the same thing. Just play it a little bit further back, just a touch of hinge. Keep that leading edge down. And the greens are so quick, so just allow your landing spot to come back a little bit, and then go ahead and play your regular release one technique. And you can see how that just lands, but look how much it just keeps going and going and going and going out there towards the hole. So, really the chip and run shot is really the go-to shot for links golf. It keeps that leading edge down, it guarantees that strike, and then you've got to really think about the break around the hole, because it is so quick. If you just miss that break around the hole, it will go and it will really get away from you. So just whatever break you see, kind of double it at least, and that then should bring it a little bit more into the hole. So one more go here with the 8. I'm going to aim a little more to the right here and see if we can just get the break right. So little hinge, down we go, and you see how that ball's rolling out, rolling out. Now it's getting the break just past the hole, but you can see how much that's broke at the end there. Okay, and that's what you don't always get on regular golf courses. So that's your chip and run shot. Now let's get into the tougher shot now, where you're in runoff area, a little bit less green to work with, and you need to try and get it to stop a little bit quicker. Okay, so you're in this situation here. This is a classic runoff area. You can't really go low because the bunker's here and the runoff into the bunker. So you need to try and go into the air if you want to go directly at the pin. Now, ordinarily, we're in this position on a softer golf course, then you could perhaps think about doing a release 2 or even a release 3 where you're really laying it this way, where the trailing edge of the bounce is landing before the ball and sliding underneath it. Now, from this lie here, which, as you can hear, absolutely rock hard there is absolutely no way you're able to slide the bounce under the ball. Okay, so that's totally out of the question. So you've got to think of different ways to do it. Now, you know, I would label this an emergency. So I've got my 60-degree club, okay, emergency use only. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go slightly between the releases. I'm going to give myself a release 2 backswing. So I'm going to set the club and get it into a toe-up position. But I'm going to do a release 1 short impact to really keep the leading edge down. So I get the benefit of a wrist hinge and some loft, but I get the benefit of a delivery on the ball first contact with leading edge down. So it then just gives you that nice strike, okay, without the bounce releasing too much. So we're just going to play it slightly open with the club face. I'm going to set up to it a little bit left of the ball. My standard release 2, I go this way, but my setup for this lie, I need to get a little more left. Basically, I'm going to steepen the attack and get the club working a little bit more down into the ground because it's so firm. Down the grip a touch, but I'm going to hinge it, put the toe up, and then put it into a short finish. It's still going to come out like medium fly. It's probably not going to go as high as I would like, and it may get quite a quick sort of longish first bounce, but hopefully you'll see some spin on maybe the third. I don't think I can stop this short of the hole. That's the other thing when you're playing links golf. You've got to be really realistic with your expectations. It's more about the strike than obviously getting it really close. It's limiting the damage. Don't put it in the bunker and then take 3T out of the bunker. That's really where you can start racking scores up on links golf. So here we go. So down the grip a little bit of wrist hinge in the backswing, short finish, see if we can get the strike. You see, really nice strike. Got a little bit of spin there, and actually got that super close there, about 2 feet from the hole. And that's a clever little shot. That's a bit more advanced. It's going where you go right in between the releases. So it's release 2, release 1. Can't do a release 2 here. It's going to kick. So this is a nice shot to have in your locker. So a little bit of hinge, slightly shorter follow through. And again, you can see that's just gone under a couple of feet, but I'd take both of those results for sure. And that's a really nice option. So, you know, figure that one out. And the great thing about links golf, you shouldn't be too scared about the ground. It is so firm. You know you're not going to get it digging in too much, so you can just afford to be a little bit steeper than normal. Now, same lie. This is another way to do it. This is where you open the club up and you put the toe down lower so you stand closer to it. Reason being, the bounce of the club really is measured in the middle there, but good quality lob wedges, 5860s, tend to have the toe shaved down. So it's shaved down there in the toe end of the club, which means it sits much neater to the bottom of the ball. And then you can go a little bit out and a little bit across. So using this part of the club, and you can usually hit it a little bit higher with this technique and still get a little bit more spin. It's not as difficult as you think. Just practice this one. So open the club up. I'm aiming the club face around about 2 yards to the right of the pin, and then my stance is aiming probably about 10 yards left of the pin here, and then I'm going to swing more or less on the toe line and just feel like I work the toe and see if we can then just pop that one up. So out and across, not that much in the way of wrist action, and then we can see we get a much higher shot. Or is it going to go in? Oh, very, very near. 1 inch short of the hole there. But that's a nice shot, and particularly off firm turf, I think you can really trust that toe as it's working through. So one more go with this one. Open the face, toe down. Nice high, flat left wrist there. Out to in, and then we just use the toe, and we can pop it up and get it landing nice and softly. Again, that's about 3 feet away. So I take all 4 of those shots. So that's a really nice solution if you can't go low because you've got something in front of you and you've got these really firm links lies about how you can still stop the ball and get it nice and close. Right, so now into the sand, and I love links bunkers. I love the riveted faces and how steep the banks are. It's a real challenge, which I'll go through some interesting situations after I've gone through like the stock technique. But essentially what you can understand about links bunkers is the sand is fantastic. I mean, the sand here at Royal Portrush is the sand that they collect from the dunes and the areas they have on their golf course. So it's just pure natural sand, and you know, it's quite loose and there's a good amount of it, and it can be hard to get the height and the spin that you want when you're coming in super shallow. So what I would do in this situation, this type of sand, I want a little bit more of a thud down. I still need to release the club really towards a release 2 or 3, so the club butteret's working back somewhere here, 2, 3, remember, so at least 2.5 or so. But I want a little bit more smack down, okay, and a little bit more speed out of this sand, because it's going to slow the club head down a bit more than perhaps other bunkers. So I'm going to set up exactly the same way with the ball position just inside the heel, nice and low with the hands here, nice angle this way, open the club face up. I've got my 56, by the way. I tend to use 56 unless I'm really short-sighted out of links bunkers. Really cup it, get the loft and bounce on, but I need to feel like I'm swinging a little bit more down as I release the club and not come in too level. So at address, I might just lean into it a little bit more. So a standard bunker technique for a splash shot, you'll see I teach this way. For links, I'm just going to lean into it a little bit more. It's not a crazy shift, but just a little bit more this way, just to allow my club to really smack down into the sand and get that sand working under the ball to pop it up over these high lips. So let's give that a go. Nice smack, lots of release, but really smack down into it a little bit more. And then we can still get that height and get the distance, which is the most important thing. Understand as well, when there's lots of sand in the bunker, it's hard to spin it. It's just hard to do it because you can't really get the speed that you would ordinarily get. Right, lots of release, down, spank the sand, and out it pops there and just runs out. I can't see any of these. The lip is so high, but I'm guessing they're running on a little bit. Let's try one more. Early hinge, lots of release. Keep turning. Really smack the sand. And out it pops. There we go. Pretty good. So hopefully that makes sense. You see the divot here I've got is just a little bit deeper than I would normally teach. I normally like the club just to skip it, but a little bit deeper, a little bit more commitment down into it when you've got this fantastic links sand. So because there's a nice amount of sand in most links golf courses bunkers, you'll find that your ball will tend to plug quite a lot like that one has. And you know, you just got to get super aggressive with these lies. I like to play it with an open club face. If I shut my face, it might be hard to get it over that lip. So I'm going to play it with a wide open club face and really use the heel, where it tapers in. It's really quite sharp as the heel of the lob wedge. I've gone to my 60 degree here, by the way. This definitely is an emergency. And it's a case of really trying to hinge it super early, come down towards the back of the ball, hold the heel. This is the one shot in short game where I'm really gripping it tightly here to make sure I'm hanging onto that club and not letting it twist. It's into the wind and there's going to be a lot of sand coming out here. So I'm only going to demonstrate one of these because I'm going to get a mouthful of sand and a hairful of sand from this shot. Right, now, it's slightly above my feet as well, so it wants to come out a little bit to the left. I'm going to aim this to the right, open it up, lean everything forward, super hinge, hit down, very little follow through. Just feel like you stick the club in the sand and just leave it there for this shot. And you need to get a little bit lucky with these shots as well. Hinge it early, down, hold the heel. Oh, that came out lovely. That got a nice bit of height. And I think it nearly went in there. So, you know, that's a good way of playing it. But you can see how much sand I've extracted out of there. So the key is to really get forward, hinge it super early, down, and just feel like you leave the club in the sand like that. And I know you can play it with a shut face, but I like it with a wide open face, utilising that sort of very sharp, diggy part of the heel, which helps then work the sand under the ball. And that's went really high. That went super high there, playing it that way. And I think it still stopped reasonably quickly. So hopefully that makes sense in terms of the standard shot, certainly out of the bunker. You can have a bit of fun sometimes as well. And this is a shot that you actually see quite a bit in Open Championships, where the ball maybe just dribbles in, and it might have just fallen in, and if you're left-handed, it's okay, but if you're right-handed, you got a little bit of a problem. Now, you know, here you might want to play it this way. Then there's another bunker, for example. Sometimes if you're playing, you might be off even just using your putter and just put it to the middle and then play it from there. But, you know, if you want to give this a go for a bit of fun, what you can do is get down on one knee there, and that gets you lower here. And then it's a case of hinging and just trying to splash and keep your balance. Hopefully, I'm not going to go face first into the bunker here, but I've not done this for a long time. Let's give this a go. Hinge it, splash it, don't end up in the bunker. Well, it's out. There we go. Bit of luck there. It hit the lip, kicked out, got 12 feet for the birdie. I've got a dirty knee, but not a problem. Okay, so different shots out the bunker. Now let's do some IQ bits in terms of choosing the right club around the green when you're in these vicious runoffs. So we've gone through some technique there, and now you're in these runoff areas, and this is where you can start giving yourself some different options in terms of which club you're going to use and the different options you have. Now, there are a few different options there. I'm going to run through 4 of them: a lofted iron, a sort of mid-iron, a hybrid, and a putter. I think they're all great choices from this type of situation. So we're going to go for the near pin first, and what you can do is sometimes the problem of using a longer club, which you might see in a minute, is it can get away from you if you bump it into the bank. So using a lofted club like I've got here, a 52, gives you a bit more spin. So it can go low, give you a bit of spin into the bank, and it can just sort of bumble up to the top and then feed down. It's probably a slightly higher tariff shot until you've practiced it enough, but it's certainly a shot that you should definitely have a look at using in these situations. So when you are chipping into banks, which is really what you've got to do here if you're using any sort of lofty club, you have to visualize where that first bounce is going to be, where the second is going to be, and then how it's then going to break to the hole, and how the slope's going to take it as well on that first bounce. Now I think this is just going to pop slightly to the right, so I'm going to aim a little bit to the left, so it then just allowing for that first bounce. So 52, we're going to play it outside the back foot, really turn the loft down now, hinge it, and then hit it into the bank. It's all about controlling the trajectory here. If this goes high at all, obviously it's not going to work its way up the bank. So way outside the back foot. I'll never teach this normally, but for this shot and link specific turf, very firm, it's unlikely the club's going to dig into the turf. So we can definitely go ahead and do this. So big lean here, loft is turned down, and we're going to hit it into the bank and see if we can scamper up with a bit of spin. You can see a little bit of spin there and rolling down, not too bad. Maybe 8-10 feet past the hole. Let's try that again. Outside the back foot, tiny bit softer this time. Pops into the bank, go in, just on that left edge. So both of those have gone a little bit too far past the hole, but I feel like I played it quite well. Let's now do that with a 7-iron, and the 7-iron's first bounce wants to be a little bit further back here because it's going to have less spin, and see if we can let the bank take a little bit more of the speed out of the ball rather than worrying about the spin this time. You can see that's come out again, pretty hot. Go in. Oh, hit the pin. Good job it hit the pin. Let's do that again. A little softer. I'll probably get there. That's how quick these greens are here at Portrush. Okay, so you can just bump it in the bank. I quite like this option actually. A little 7-iron, bump it in, let it just die at the top, and then run down. Very, very quick. Very, very difficult shot, but a safe one. Now, if you didn't fancy using an iron, a hybrid is a great choice, because a hybrid, you don't have to worry too much about what bounce you'll get. It'll just be basically like you're using a putting action with a little bit of loft, and it will then just run up and like a putt really. So use your putting grip and just make a little stroke, and then that will just run out. Really safe little shot. You see, just run it to the top and let it feed down. So that's a really nice little shot. You don't need to worry about bumping it in the bank. So that really is a serious choice. Now, If you don't fancy doing that and you want to play it really safe, the old Texas wedge, the putter, great shot around links golf courses when it's really tight and quick, and you don't have to worry about the speed so much, because basically this is like a green really for a lot of golf courses, so you don't have to worry about that. What you do have to look a little bit more is the break, because obviously the ball's on the ground for longer, and that's going to make the ball move a bit. So putting stroke, if it's slow and up the hill there, nothing wrong with a little bit of wrist hinge just to increase the speed a little bit. And this is a great link shot. There it goes. Oh, hit it. Oh, just slipped out. Do that again. It's a little stroke. Run it to the top and then let it just roll down. There we go. It's a nice way of still getting it close with the Texas wedge. I'm going right out to the back pin this time. A little bit more hinge, a little bit more speed, and out you can run towards the back pin. Go in. Oh, nearly. All right, so listen, lots of different shots you can play around the green. You can play a low flighted spinning one into the bank. You can play more like a 7-iron or a 6-iron into the bank and let the bank take some speed out of the ball. The hybrid's a great choice. And of course, the putter usually is a great choice around links golf in these runoff areas. So hopefully that's given you some insights and some bits to think about next time you're out on a links golf course in terms of getting better strikes. If you want to play a lower shot, the higher shot, the sand shots, and also in terms of IQ, choosing the right shot at the right time, and that's going to help your golf. So enjoy your golf and see you next time. Cheers.